I have a recipe for you today that is perfect for warmer days and busy weeknights, and that's taco salad. It's loaded with crisp vegetables, perfectly seasoned ground beef, and classic taco toppings such as avocado, salsa, and cilantro. It's all of the flavors of a taco in healthy salad form, and it's easily customizable with all of your favorite ingredients, so feel free to swap things up, and I'll give you a few ideas in the video as well. But I think what makes this the best taco salad is the homemade taco seasoning and the homemade salsa. And I'll show you how to make both of those, so let's dive in. We'll start by making the homemade salsa first so that all of the flavors have a little extra time to meld together. And trust me, once you make salsa at home, you'll never buy it from the store again because it's incredibly easy and much more flavorful. Just toss 2 cloves of garlic into your food processor along with half of an onion. And the food processor will do most of the work, so I just chop the onion into large chunks. Then add 1 jalapeno or serrano pepper, and depending on how spicy you like it, you can remove the seeds for a more mild salsa, or keep some of the seeds for a spicier salsa. And I just give this a rough chop before adding it to the food processor as well. I also like to add the garlic, onion, and jalapeno first because being closer to the blades means that they'll get thoroughly chopped and you won't have any large chunks of them in the final salsa. Next up is cilantro, and you'll need about half a cup of leaves, though I rarely measure and just use about half of a regular bunch. When it comes to the tomatoes, the debate between fresh tomatoes and canned tomatoes can go on forever, but in my opinion, I think using canned tomatoes is best for the perfect restaurant-style salsa, because unlike pico de gallo, which is a chunky salsa, this style of salsa has a smoother consistency and texture. And if you buy fire-roasted tomatoes, which I do recommend, you get much more layered depth of flavor than you would from fresh tomatoes. So drain 2 14-ounce cans of tomatoes, as we don't want our salsa overly watery, and add those to the food processor. To that, you'll add 1 4-ounce can of green chilies, and you don't need to drain this, so just add it on top. Then squeeze half of a lime for a little zing and tanginess, and add half a teaspoon of salt. Add the lid to your food processor and pulse it in 1 to 2 second increments until it reaches your desired texture. I like mine to have a little bit of chunkiness, but if you like yours more liquidy, just blend it more. You'll get about 4 cups of salsa out of this recipe, and I store it in my Weck jars that are linked below and on my website. And also on my website, you'll find storage tips for the salsa, so make sure to check that out. Of course, I have to do a quick taste test just to make sure it's perfect. But let's move on to the homemade taco seasoning, because this is another recipe that I make all of the time and then store in my glass spice jars. It's just 1 tablespoon of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, a half a teaspoon of paprika, a half a teaspoon of oregano, a half a teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of black pepper, and a little pinch of cayenne pepper. Give that all a stir, and you've got the best homemade taco seasoning that's fresh and doesn't have junky fillers like those store-bought options. I've always got this spice blend on hand because, as you guys have seen, I tend to make a lot of Mexican-inspired recipes, like today's taco salad. So now that our salsa and seasonings are made, the rest comes together really fast. Just add 1 pound of ground beef to a pan on medium-high heat and use a spatula to break this up and brown the meat. I'm using ground beef that's 10% fat today, so I don't have any excess fat to drain off, but if you do, just drain that off as it cooks. When the meat is about 80% done and there's still some juices in the pan, I'll add 2 tablespoons of the taco seasoning and mix that together until it's fully cooked. The great thing about a taco salad is that it's completely customizable, so feel free to add your favorite taco ingredients. I like black beans, so I'll drain and rinse those today, but you could also use pinto beans or swap the beans for more veggies like chopped bell pepper. And the same applies to the cheese. I do eat a little bit of dairy and enjoy a small sprinkle of organic sharp cheddar, but if you're dairy-free, you can leave this off. For the base of our taco salad, roughly chop up a large head of romaine lettuce. You could also use green leaf lettuce, iceberg lettuce, or really any type of lettuce, and I've even used spinach in this recipe before. Next, slice in half or quarters a cup or so of grape tomatoes or cherry tomatoes, then set those aside. And then dice a red onion. You only need about a quarter cup of diced red onion, but when I've got half of an onion, I tend to just dice the whole thing, so I only have to cry once, and then use the leftover in other recipes throughout the week. And lastly, dice up one avocado because that creaminess, I think, is an essential ingredient on anything that has taco in the name. Then all that's left to do is assemble. So add a handful of romaine lettuce to a bowl, top that with tomatoes and a few spoonfuls of black beans, add a portion of warm taco meat and you'll be able to smell all of the wonderful spices. Sprinkle on a little cheese if you so choose and red onion, and of course, a small handful of diced avocado. The finishing touches on this taco salad are the fresh salsa, a dollop of sour cream, and a squeeze of lime juice, though a drizzle of my recent lime crema recipe would also be delicious. And if you're dairy-free, check out my cashew sour cream recipe on my website. A few leaves of cilantro top it off, and if you'd like to keep it super healthy, you can eat it just like this. But if you'd like to add a few corn or cassava flour tortilla chips, you can do that as well. This taco salad recipe is perfect for summer. The whole family will love it, and you can set up a buffet-style taco bar for even more fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe, and if you did, hit that thumbs up, share the recipe with your family and friends, and I will see you again in the next video.